Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. I seek leave to make a statement concerning ministerial arrangements for question time.
Is leave granted? Leave is granted.
I thank the Senate. I advise changes to ministerial arrangements. Senator Farrell will be absent from question time for the remainder of the week on account of ministerial business. In his absence, ministers will represent portfolios at question time in accordance with the letter circulated to the President, party leaders and independent senators.
Thank you, Minister. Just before I call you, Senator Scarr, I draw to the attention of honourable senators the presence in the public gallery parliamentarians from the Indian Parliament. On behalf of all senators, I wish you a warm welcome to Australia and in particular to the Senate. Senator Scarr.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Immigration, Senator Watt. Net overseas migration for the year up to 31 March 2025 was 315,900. That is 46% higher than the 10-year average before the COVID-19 pandemic. That is 34% higher than the long-term assumption used by the Centre for Population within the Treasury Department. In an interview on ABC Insiders program on 19 October 2025, the Minister was asked whether the current level of immigration was too high. The Minister was also asked what was an appropriate level of immigration. The Minister did not provide a target number nor a range. Minister, does the government have a target number or even a target range for permanent migration and for net overseas migration for the short, medium and long term?
Thank you, Senator Scarr. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President, and thanks, Senator Scarr. I know that Senator Scarr represents one view of immigration policy that exists within the coalition. We've got Senator Nampijinpa Price up the back there who's got a different view, and got Mr Hastie over there with a different view, and then probably Senator Sharma has a different view. Senator Antic's got a different view.
Minister Watt, please resume your seat. Senator Scarr.
Direct relevance.
I'll draw that minister to your question, Senator Scarr. Minister Watt, please continue.
But what I can say is that the Albanese government has one view, which is that we have worked hard to reduce net overseas migration, including through changes to international student numbers that were opposed by the coalition. So yet again we've seen the coalition argue for one thing and do another. We're not going to take lectures on this or any other policy from a divided rabble of a coalition.
Thank you. Order. Order. Thank you, Minister Watt. Senator Scarr, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. I note we didn't get a target number or a range. In its own migration strategy, the government committed to developing a principles-based multi-year planning model for permanent migration to improve collaboration with states and territories. In the same interview on ABC Insiders, the Minister advised that he had abandoned the multi-year planning approach. Minister, how can all three levels of government undertake appropriate planning for housing supply, services, infrastructure without direction from the federal government on target immigration levels?
Thank you, Senator Scarr. Minister Watt.
Well, Senator Scarr, the facts tell this true story, which is that the most recent data shows that net overseas migration is around 17,000 below Treasury's forecast for the first 3 quarters of 2024-25. Net overseas migration has now fallen for 6 quarters in a row in annual terms, and it's over 40% down on its peak. So the government does recognise that steps did need to be taken to fix the broken, discredited, corrupted immigration system that we inherited from the coalition, and those figures show that we're doing that.
Senator Scarr, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Again, I note no target or range was provided. When the Minister announced the permanent migration program for the current year, he made an announcement of 3 sentences, less than 100 words. Minister, do you agree it is in the national interest, especially now with heightened concerns, for the government to provide a detailed statement of reasons for its immigration policy settings, including how it is balancing pressures on housing supply, services and infrastructure with addressing skill shortages?
Thank you, Senator Scarr. Minister Watt.
Well, again, seriously, are we expected to take lectures from people who like to, in their home cities, spend a lot of time with multicultural communities, but when they come down to Canberra, vote with people who want to limit Indian migration?
Senator Scarr.
Direct. President, direct relevance. Direct relevance.
Thank you, Senator. Order. Order. Senator Scarr, the minister has only just begun his response. I will listen carefully to his answer, and if necessary, I'll draw him to your question. Minister Watt, please continue.
We'll be ready to take lectures from the opposition on matters involving immigration when they can work out just one policy rather than Senator Nampijinpa Price's policy, Senator Scarr's policy, Mr Hastie's policy, which is all about taking over the leadership from Susan Lee.
Thank you, Senator Watt. Senator Ruston, I assume you're rising. I will draw the minister to Senator Scarr's question. You've finished. Senator Ananda Raja.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. A focus of the Albanese Labor government's first term was strengthening Medicare after a decade of neglect. How is the government delivering access to quality, affordable health care for even more Australians?
Thank you, Senator Ananda Raja. Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator Ananda Raja. We know that you, in particular, are someone who understands the health system firsthand, and you understand how important it is for the government to build an even stronger Medicare for Australians. And while those opposite continue to focus on themselves and engage in multiple media interviews about themselves, we on this side are focused on delivering affordable, quality health care for Australians, making medicines cheaper for all Australians, record investments in bulk billing, and, of course, as we all know, and this is hard to hear for them, isn't it? On the 1st of November, last Saturday, the beginning of our Medicare bulk billing practice incentive program, an $8.5 billion investment, the single largest investment in Medicare since a Labor government established it 51 years ago. Now, what does this mean for Australians? The tripling of the bulk billing incentive for all Australians. It means the introduction of an additional incentive payment for practices that bulk bill every patient. It means that 9 in 10 GP visits will be bulk billed by the end of the decade, and it means that 3 times more practices across Australia will be fully bulk billing practices, like the One Healthcare Clinic in Woodside, which has already declared, with the help of the incentive payment, it will move to a fully bulk billed practice. Mr. President, already around 1,000 clinics have indicated they are moving to full bulk billing in coming weeks after having previously charged gap fees. That is a Labor government in action. And the number is growing each day, in addition to the 1,600 clinics that already bulk bill 100% of their patients. 6 months ago, Australians voted for a government that would strengthen Medicare, and we are delivering on that commitment.
Thank you, Minister Wong. Senator Ananda Raja, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. The Albanese Labor government opened 87 Medicare urgent care clinics in its first term. These clinics have made a big difference in communities right across Australia, giving Australians access to care quicker and for free. How is the government, Senator Wong, continuing to deliver on its commitment to strengthen Medicare by establishing even more Medicare urgent care clinics?
Thank you, Senator Ananda Raja. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Senator Ananda Raja, for the supplementary. And in October, we passed a very important milestone. We saw Australians clock up 2 million visits. 2 million visits to our Medicare urgent care clinics across the country. And as you said, Senator, we opened 87 in our first term, and we are on track in this term to open another 50. And what it means for Australians is that those in need of urgent care that is not life-threatening can get help much more conveniently, much more quickly and for free. And in my home state of South Australia, this is already making a difference. We're delivering on the new Labor member for Sturt's campaign commitment to open a Medicare urgent care clinic in Adelaide's eastern suburbs. We're opening 2 more in Victor Harbour and in Whyalla, and I'm sure Senator Ruston will be very pleased about this, because that helps take pressure off local hospitals, and almost half of them
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Ananda Raja, second supplementary.
Thank you, Senator Wong. Clearly, strengthening Medicare by improving access to quality, affordable health care is a key focus of the Albanese Labor government. How will the government continue to strengthen Medicare and guard against efforts to undermine it?
Minister Wong.
Thank you for the question. Well, we all know Medicare was hard-fought. Medicare was hard-fought. We had to build it twice because the coalition in government destroyed the first effort to establish it. And we all remember John Howard called bulk billing a rort. Peter Dutton tried to end bulk billing with a GP tax. And Peter Dutton's successor as the Health Minister, now Leader of the Opposition, chose not only not to repair the damage but actually to make it worse, extending the Medicare rebate freeze. The only health minister in Medicare's history never to lift that rebate, not even once. And the result was predictable: bulk billing in free fall and pressure on families kept rising. For us on this side, universal health care is not negotiable. Medicare is for all Australians, and Labor will always fight for it.
Answering has expired. Senator Canavan.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Climate Change and Energy, Senator Ayres. AEMO estimates that increases of up to 55% for overhead transmission line projects are likely compared to its 2024 integrated system plan. AEMO has stated that, I quote, increases in costs for electricity transmission network development would impact bills for electricity consumers. Minister, given that electricity prices and bills have increased by more than $1,000 under Labor, how much more will families pay to deliver your government's 82% renewable energy target?
Thank you, Senator Canavan. Minister Ayres.
Well, Senator Canavan, President, was the then member of the government who pointed out that electricity prices for industrial energy users went up by 91% under the last government. We certainly won't be taking lectures on energy policy from the supporters of the former government, who had a decade of dysfunction and disinvestment, which has had profound impacts for Australian industry. What industry and households can be certain of is that a certain plan that's focused on investment certainty will deliver a much better outcome.
Thank you, Senator Ayres. Senator Canavan, first supplementary.
Well, I note, Madam President, that the Minister did not talk once about the government's future plans. So Australians need to understand the government does not have a plan for their futures. And on 24th of September 2022, the Minister advised Australia would need to install 22,000, the Minister for Energy, 22,000 solar panels every day and 40 wind turbines every month to reach the government's targets. Can the Minister advise now how many solar panels and wind turbines have been installed since this time?
Thank you, Senator Canavan. Minister Ayres.
Well, Australians are the biggest adopters of solar technology on their rooftops because it's in the interests of their electricity bills. It's saving them thousands of dollars every year, and it turns out that, you know, the other thing we're big adopters of? Batteries. Tens of thousands of batteries being installed every month.
Senator Canavan, second supplementary.
They can't even last more than 20 seconds to talk about their energy policies. They have absolutely nothing here. Madam President, I ask the Minister again, has the Minister undertaken modelling of how many hectares of agricultural land will be taken up and impacted by the 95 renewable energy projects so far approved by this government?
Thank you, Senator Canavan. Minister Ayres.
The modelling I was most interested in was the one that you did last term when you covered your face in coal dust pretending to be a coal miner.
Order. 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 Senator Faruqi. Order. I have Senator Faruqi. Senator McKenzie, you are being disrespectful. I have called Senator Faruqi. She's to be heard in silence. Senator Faruqi.
Thank you, President. My question is to Minister Ayres, representing the Climate Change Minister. Minister, the Senate Committee report on climate risk and insurance premiums, tabled a year ago, found that climate-driven disasters are increasing in frequency and intensity, with insurance skyrocketing and becoming unaffordable and unavailable. The National Climate Risk Assessment, which Labor tried to hide, has painted a very dire picture of the future. And just this week, new reports are warning of increasing extreme weather and impacts on insurance. Communities are bearing the brunt of the cascading and compounding effects of cost of living, insurance and the climate crisis. Minister, when will your government respond to the recommendations in this report and actually do something for communities on the front lines of the climate crisis?
Thank you, Senator Faruqi. Minister Ayres. Well,
Senator Faruqi, we hid the National Climate Risk Assessment report by releasing it. by releasing it, and we released it on the timetable determined by us, because it was at the heart of this government determining a credible, deliverable, achievable target for 2035.
Senator Faruqi, first supplementary.
Minister, the polluter pays principle demands that the cost of the climate crisis be shifted to those responsible for it. Fossil fuel corporations make a mozza as they wreck the climate while the community pays. When will your government force coal and gas companies to pick up the tab for the climate damage that they are causing and contribute to disaster mitigation, resilience and the cost of rising insurance?
Thank you, Senator Faruqi. Minister Ayres.
Well, there was a model that incorporated this principle that firms that had a responsibility for pollution would make a contribution. It was there for this Senate to vote on in 2009, and I remember the Greens political party and this rabble over here voting it down and delaying energy action and investment for another 2 decades.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Faruqi, second supplementary.
Minister, you can try and evade these questions, but you know full well that coal and gas are killing the planet. Why are you fast-tracking coal and gas with your so-called environment reforms?
Thank you, Senator Faruqi. Minister Ayres.
Well, as I say, if you've got a politics that's focused on bumper stickers and slogans, it has consequences.
Senator De Leger.
Thanks very much, President. My question is to the Minister for the Environment and Water, Senator Watt. Figures released over the weekend show that the renewable energy in Australia edged right up to 50% of the national energy market for the month of October. This follows the September figures, which was the first month in which renewables provided more electricity than coal. The Albanese Labor government's policies are obviously encouraging uptake in the cheapest and cleanest form of power generation. How many renewable projects have been approved since the government was elected in May 2022?
Thank you, Senator De Leger. Minister Watt.
Thank you very much, Senator De Leger, who I know is a rational voice in this debate, which is fast becoming more irrational by the day. What we've seen is the facts show that the government's policies are encouraging a greater uptake in the cheapest and cleanest form of energy generation, being renewables. In fact, for 2 months in a row, I hope you're sitting down now. I hope you're sitting down. 2 months in a row, renewable power has provided more electricity in Australia than coal. Are you okay? Are you okay? A few facts. We're doing this through policies like the Capacity Investment Scheme, supporting the take-up of home batteries and community batteries at a massive scale, with the Rebat program for home batteries experiencing incredible popularity. All of this means more clean and cheap energy generation across the country. The Australian Energy Market Operator quarterly figures showed a 27% reduction in wholesale prices because of this record renewable penetration. So that's right, power prices would be higher under the Nationals' policy of extending coal, let alone nuclear power. Obviously, we've got more work to do to ensure that those reductions are flowing through to consumers, but it's good to see the impact that renewables are having on that wholesale price. And despite the best efforts of the Coalition and, somewhat surprisingly, the Greens party, who also want to block renewables, our government is also supporting the rollout of renewables by ensuring they are approved in a timely fashion. Since coming to office in May 2022, our government has approved 111 renewable energy projects across the country, and that's enough to power every home in Australia and more. Now, what a contrast to the energy policy train wreck we see unfolding endlessly in the Coalition. Having produced, I think it was 23 energy policies in government, they're now approaching 30 in opposition. And now they're so divided that they had to agree to not even talk about net zero in their party room today.
Answering has expired. Senator De Leger, first supplementary.
Thanks, President, and thanks, Minister. Whether it's the Capacity Investment Scheme, environmental law reform and more than the 110 renewable projects that have been approved since we come to government, it's certainly obvious to my community that the Albanese Labor government is committed to cheaper and cleaner energy. How is the government's consistent position on building more renewables and reducing emissions ensuring certainty in our energy market?
Thank you, Senator De Leger. Minister Watt.
Thanks again, Senator De Leger. Well, as they say, consistency is key. It's the key to providing the investment certainty needed to deliver cheaper and cleaner power, which is why the Albanese government has been consistent in supporting the net zero emissions by 2050 target, because we want Australians to seize the economic opportunities from the renewable energy transition, and importantly, we want Australians to grab the jobs that this transition provides. Now, there are some opposite who get it, like Senator Bragg, who said today virtually every country has committed to net zero emissions. We would be a pariah state if we moved away from it. Senator Bragg noted the countries opposed to net zero: Iran, Libya, and to this list we can now add the National Party. Senator Hume gets it from up there on the backbench for the moment, and she had some sharp words directed at the person who dumped her from shadow cabinet. She said the most important thing now, though, is that the leader takes a position on energy policy and does so with a matter of urgency. A few more wise words from Senator Hume up the back.
The time for answering has expired. Senator De Leger, second supplementary.
Thanks again, Minister. How are businesses in rural and regional Australia being supported from the approval of more clean and reliable energy generation? And what are the threats to this massive investment opportunity for rural and regional Australia?
Thank you, Senator De Leger. Minister Watt.
Thanks, Senator De Leger. I'm happy to mention Tomago, because why did the owners of Tomago say that they were now consulting about potentially shutting down? Because they couldn't get enough renewable power. Because they couldn't get enough renewable power. Because coal-fired power was too expensive. You people have your heads so far under the ground that you can't hear anything. You can't even hear it when the owners of these companies say that it's your policies that are endangering the jobs in heavy industry right across the country. Now, if you only opened your eyes, you would know that renewables are not only keeping the lights on as coal plants reach the end of their technical lives, but they're also creating jobs and alternative income streams and benefits right across Australian communities. If you actually spoke to farmers rather than organising protests amongst them, you would know that farmers are earning a significant income stream from hosting renewable energy projects alongside their existing farming activities. There are sheep farmers right now who are building solar farms alongside their sheep farms,
Thank you,
and you should start listening to them.
The time for answering has expired. Order. 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 Senator McKenzie, come to order. Senator Thorpe.
Thank you. My question is for the Minister for Indigenous Australians. Recently, your Labor colleagues in the NT Parliament, all whom are Aboriginal people, voted in favour of a motion for an independent body at the Commonwealth level with powers to investigate and enforce change in relation to all First Peoples deaths in custody. The motion was defeated by the racist CLP government. Do you agree with your Aboriginal NT Labor colleagues that this body is needed?
Minister Wong.
With respect, I'd ask you to request that the senator rephrase the question. That is very clearly both a request about an opinion, but also about an opinion in relation to the state, the territory legislature, both of which are not within the bounds of the standing orders. No, Senator, I'm actually trying to be helpful. There are ways you can ask a similar question without crossing both of those boundaries in the standing orders.
Senator Thorpe, the intention of your question is clear, and that is it the intention of the government to establish a body? But I would ask you to take on board the comments Senator Wong has made, and further I ask you to withdraw the comments you made about the NT government.
Violence of the colony.
Senator Thorpe.
I withdraw.
Thank you. Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Senator Thorpe, for the question. This is an issue that does affect deeply the people of the Northern Territory, in particular those who represent First Nations families across the Northern Territory, and those would be the bush members largely that Senator Thorpe is referring to. And I know this is really difficult. My job, though, President, is to make sure that in terms of justice and the issues that are raised around incarceration and deaths in custody is a focus that is right across every state and territory jurisdiction, and my role is to work with both the Northern Territory and all of the other states and territories about the concerns we have at the Commonwealth level about those high rates of incarceration.
Thank you, Minister. Have you completed your answer? Senator Thorpe, first supplementary.
I had a point of order.
Well, the minister's completed her answer.
Before she sat down, I stood up. President?
Senator Thorpe.
And I had a point of order.
Senator Thorpe, the minister has resumed her seat. I'm going to invite you to put your first supplementary.
Your Prime Minister was recently asked about taking Commonwealth actions on deaths in custody. He used the excuse that he needs to be convinced that people in Canberra know better than the people in the NT. Now NT Aboriginal members of your government, Labor, are calling for Commonwealth action. Will federal Labor act, or what?
Thank you, Senator Thorpe. Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator Thorpe. I do believe I answered the substantial part of your question in your previous one. Yes, we are acting in terms of the relationships that we are trying to, through the Coalition of Peaks, through my work with Pat Turner as co-chair, to deal with the high rates of incarceration and the concerns we have around deaths in custody. The Prime Minister is supportive of this, my colleagues are supportive of this, and I am working and continue to do so, as I do also with Senator Thorpe, to try and make a difference in terms of the justice issues in the states and territories.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Thorpe, second supplementary.
Last week we heard the heartbreaking and angering news that yet another First Nations person has died in custody, and they keep dying in custody. A young 21-year-old woman with her whole life ahead of her was killed in custody. How many more deaths are you and your Prime Minister willing to accept before you use the powers you have?
Thank you, Senator Thorpe. Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President. Well, I certainly put on the record that this isn't about wanting to see any deaths, Senator Thorpe, at all, whether it's in prisons or out of prisons for that matter, early deaths of anyone. And I have spoken with the crossbenchers, in particular Senator Thorpe, in the direction that I'm taking, President, in working with the states and territories to ensure that the concerns that we've raised around the high incarceration rates and the deaths in custody is being listened to.
Minister McCarthy, please resume a seat. Senator Thorpe.
Just want to know when you're going to use the powers.
Senator Thorpe, why are you on your feet?
Yes, President. Obviously, I'm on my feet.
No, but what are you on a point
of order for relevance? The question is whether the minister is going to use her federal powers to stop the deaths that continue to rise of Aboriginal people in custody.
Thank you, Senator Thorpe. The minister is being directly relevant to your question. Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President. And in the preparation that I am doing in regards to the Joint Council meeting with the Coalition of Peaks, of course, the federal funding, that's the relationships that we have with state and territories, is an area that I am looking at and trying to work with my colleagues to see if we can absolutely hold states and territories to account.
Thank you, Minister. Senator David Pocock.
Thanks, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Aged Care and Seniors, Senator McAllister. Minister, I've been approached by a family in Canberra who are desperately seeking a place in residential care for their father. He's in his 80s and living with dementia. His wife, also in her 80s, is struggling to care for him. She herself is living with MS and is no longer strong enough to help him dress or shower. They have now approached every single aged care facility here in the ACT, and they've all turned this man down, every single one. He was briefly given a place, but after one night was asked to move out. His dementia is apparently too troublesome for aged care facilities. Minister, what can be done for this family or any family in this situation?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister McAllister.
Thanks very much, President, and I thank Senator Pocock for the question. Senator, I think in the way that you phrased your question, you understand that I wouldn't seek to provide a direct response to the circumstances you described for this individual family. It's for a number of reasons. I don't have all of the information about all that's transpired, and I also wouldn't discuss a person's circumstances in a public forum. But I can tell you that the government understands very clearly the need to reform the aged care system because of the increasing demands on that system. And it's why we have stepped through the reform process that we have in a bipartisan way with those opposite. As you know, the new Act came into force on the 1st of November, and it includes a range of provisions, and most important amongst those are the measures that are designed to make sure that the aged care system can operate sustainably. That's true because of the demand we expect for people who wish to age in place at home, but also to make sure that the funding arrangements for residential aged care are also such that we can see continued investment and allow that sector to expand in the way that we know it needs to expand.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Pocock, first supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, under the new Rights-Based Act, will residential aged care facilities have to take someone like this who can't find anywhere to go?
Minister McAllister.
Thank you very much, President. As I indicated in my answer to Senator Pocock's primary question, I'm really not in a position to provide specific advice about a specific person in this forum, but I would invite the Senator to reach out to Senator Ray. I think he's been Minister Ray. I think he's been very clear on many occasions that he is very happy to hear from parliamentarians who have examples of people who are finding it difficult in the community, and he would be pleased to hear from you in relation to this matter also.
Senator Pocock, second supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. I think there's many like that gentleman in the community, and was asking more broadly. I understand you won't comment on a specific case, but it was meant to be a bit more general. It's also been reported today that the Inspector General believes more First Nations people will be pushed into residential homes because they can't afford services like a shower through the Support at Home system. Minister, does the government share the concerns that including compensation for stolen generations in means testing will make it more difficult for First Nations people to remain at home and age with dignity?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister McAllister.
Thank you very much, President. And I thank Senator Pocock for that question. The government is very focused on ensuring that First Nations elders get the safe and the culturally appropriate care that they deserve. For support at home, the means testing is reliant on the broader social security means testing that uses the definitions under social security law. I'm aware of the article that you're citing, I think. Minister Ray has indicated that he takes those concerns seriously and that he will be considering the effects of all co-contributions on First Nations Australians in aged care. I think more broadly, Senator, the point the government would make is that every First Nations elder deserves access to aged care that's culturally sensitive, that suits their needs, and we are determined to make sure that our historic investment in aged care delivers that.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Bell.
Thank you, President. My question goes to the Minister representing the Minister for Home Affairs, Senator Watt. Minister, the number of people living in Australia unlawfully could be as high as 200,000. This includes bridging visa holders who've let their visas lapse, failed protection applicants still here after refusal, and people working illegally breaching their visa terms, and others. At a time when everyday Australians, including families across Western Sydney and regional New South Wales, are living in tents and cars due to a housing crisis and essential services are stretched to a breaking point, what does this government say to Australians who want to know why more action hasn't been taken to remove illegal immigrants from Australia? What is this government's explanation for allowing so many illegals to remain, and when will serious removals begin?
Thank you, Senator Bell. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President. Thanks, Senator. I'd probably like to check those figures before I accepted that they were accurate, but I've already outlined some of the steps that the government has taken to reduce net overseas migration. You and many other senators in this chamber on that side of the chamber often like to draw a link between migration and housing without ever acknowledging that you have consistently voted against every effort this government has taken to provide more housing. So maybe get on board with that.
Senator Bell, first supplementary.
Minister, according to Newspoll, almost two-thirds of Australians want to end mass immigration. Australians are crying out for your government to listen. In New South Wales, housing demand is out of control, schools are overwhelmed and hospitals are at breaking point. So why is Labor more focused on appeasing foreign nationals and visa overstayers than protecting Australian citizens, especially when you have elderly people stuck in emergency departments and families sleeping rough in cars?
Thank you, Senator Bell. Minister Watt.
Well, again, the facts show that the most recent data show that net overseas migration in Australia is around 17,000 below Treasury's forecast for the first 3 quarters of 2024-25, and net overseas migration has now fallen for 6 quarters in a row in annual terms, and it's over 40% down on its peak. It really would be easier to take One Nation seriously when they try to draw a linkage between housing and migration if they'd once voted for anything to do with investment in housing.
Senator Bell, second supplementary.
Minister, I'll just draw you back. This was a question about illegals in Australia. And look, a number that the government will admit to is there are 75,000 people living in Australia illegally, yet fewer than 5 were forcibly deported in September. Again, how can Labor justify this soft approach with everyday Australians struggling with soaring house prices, rising rents and hospitals under pressure? Is this a government working for Australians or for migration agents and university lobbyists?
Thank you, Senator Bell. Minister Watt.
Well, Senator Bell, I've twice now pointed out that your party has consistently voted against everything we've ever done to invest in housing, and yet you continue to draw a link between a lack of housing and migration. We do need more homes in this country. We need them for people who've lived in Australia all their lives, and we need them for new migrants to Australia. And you'd have a lot more credibility on this issue if your party hadn't opposed everything we'd ever done to invest in housing.
Senator O'Neill.
Thank you very much, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. After a decade of inaction by the Coalition, the Albanese Labor government's delivered the most ambitious housing reform in generations. We've committed $43 billion to make it easier to buy, better to rent and build more homes, helping over 185,000 first home buyers, boosting rent assistance by nearly 50% for 1 million households, and driving a national target of 1.2 million new homes. How is this plan assisting Australians to get into home ownership?
Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator O'Neill for the question on the important area of the Commonwealth's investment in housing and for all the advocacy that goes into our policy development from my colleagues that sit here today in the chamber. We know that the pressures in the housing sector have been growing for some time. They preceded the Albanese government being elected in 2022, and we acknowledged in that campaign that home ownership felt too far away, and being a renter felt too insecure, which is why Labor has put together a $43 billion plan to build more homes, back first home buyers into home ownership and support renters. Key initiatives include, for first home buyers, the $10 billion to build 100,000 homes for first home buyers, $6.3 billion under the Help to Buy and $5.4 million for the 5% deposit scheme expansion. To boost supply, we've also provided billions of dollars to states and territories to address infrastructure backlogs and deliver new housing. To increase productivity, we have invested to accelerate the uptake of modern methods of construction and, again, invested in our commitment to incentivise states and territories to remove red tape, preventing the uptake of modern methods of construction. In social and affordable housing, we've invested to make sure that the Housing Australia Future Fund and the Social Housing Accelerator Payment is working to deliver more social housing. I hear Senator Bragg, it's taken a while to get him going, but he's there, like a horse at the Melbourne Cup, ready to go. Well, I'll be very pleased to go into the difference between the social houses that were constructed under your government when you were last in power and what we are delivering right now.
Thank you, Minister. Senator O'Neill, first supplementary.
Thank you so much for that answer, Minister. Under the Albanese Labor government, over 500,000 new homes have been built, including more than 5,000 social and affordable homes. And we're training more tradies, cutting red tape to make building easier. It's clear that the solution is boosting supply. How's the government's policies responding to the supply challenge?
Thank you, Senator O'Neill. Order. Order. Senator Bragg, which part of order did you not understand? Minister Gallagher.
More than 520,000 homes have been built nationwide since Labor was elected, and we're working with the states and territories to build infrastructure to support new housing. I heard Senator Bragg before. He's concerned about demand-side policies. Well, I was concerned to read the transcript yesterday of your interview with Patricia Karvelis when you just dumped super for housing and everything that you've stood for and all your colleagues. Oh, we're not going to do that anymore. We'll just let that go, 335. And that was on a day, can I say, the chamber, when more than 30 members of the opposition were racing to get a spot on the interview in the press gallery yesterday. You couldn't get a spot in the press gallery yesterday. It was like a stampede. But Senator Bragg managed to just nick that little 15-minute interview where he was able to dump super for housing. We've built over 5,000 social and affordable housings. We've got 25,000 in construction.
Answering has expired. Senator O'Neill, second supplementary.
Thank you very much, Minister. And I know how much hope those answers give Australians who want to get into housing. How does the Albanese Labor government approach help Australians get into housing now, whilst also ensuring Australians have adequate retirement savings?
Thank you, Senator O'Neill. Minister Gallagher.
Oh, thank you, Senator O'Neill, for that question. So when we look at social and affordable housing, over 5,000 already completed since the Albanese government was elected. Compare that to 373 in the entire time that those opposite were in government. 300, they worked very hard to deliver that 373, very hard. They were exhausted.
Order.
373. 5,000 since we've come to government, 25,000 under construction, well on the way to 55,000 social and affordable rental properties. And in terms of the question Senator O'Neill asked about retirement savings,
on my right.
Well, yesterday we saw the big crab walk away from super for housing. For every criticism that we have had about that program, Senator Bragg supported our position. Finally, yesterday, we won't have that policy again, Patricia. There it went, on the floor, on the scrap heap.
The time for answering has expired. Senator O'Sullivan.
Thank you very much, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Health and Ageing, Senator McAllister. The Prime Minister promised on more than 71 occasions that Australians only need their Medicare card and it would be free to see a GP under Labor. But Australians have been telling us their real experience on the ground. Beck from Kojonup in my state, home state of Western Australia, has told us that it costs me over $100 per visit to see the doctor, and I only get back $43 from Medicare. Certainly not free. She said it costs me more than I get back. Minister, when is Beck's out-of-pocket costs going to come down to $0?
Thank you, Senator O'Sullivan. Minister McAllister.
Well, thank you very much. And I am again very pleased to inform the Senate about the progress that we are making in restoring the enormous damage that was done to bulk billing and to Medicare under the long period of government under the Liberals, where they froze the Medicare rebate, reached billions and billions out of the Medicare system.
I'm sorry. Please resume your seat. Order on my left. I can't hear the answer. Minister McAllister.
Thank you very much, President. There is significant damage to repair, but as senators will know, on the 1st of November, our investment to lift bulk billing rates started rolling out, and I can inform the senator that in his own home state of Western Australia, 134 GP practices have indicated through the AOA process that they will become Medicare bulk billing practices, and that is an increase of 67 on where we were previously. A doubling of the number of practices that are fully bulk billing in Western Australia.
Senator O'Sullivan, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Although I didn't get I got very much a non-answer on my question as to when it was going to come down to $0. My next question is, Cheryl from Entrance North in New South Wales has told us my GP charges $120 for a 15-minute consultation. I receive $43.90 Medicare rebate out-of-pocket costs $76.10. I'm on the age pension. I can't afford this, so my health is failing.
Thank you, Senator O'Sullivan. The time for answering your question has expired. Minister McAllister.
Thank you, President. And the government is concerned about access to health care. In fact, so concerned were we that we went to the last election promising to make the single largest investment in Medicare ever to deal with these circumstances. And in the state of New South Wales, which your question refers to, the number of practices that have indicated through the EAI process that they will become Medicare bulk billing practices, that is practices that offer services for free for all their patients, is 904. That is an increase of 322 practices. Those clinics that will be changing from mixed billing to fully bulk billing in New South Wales.
Thank you, Minister. Senator O'Sullivan, second supplementary.
Alicia from Mount Gambier in South Australia paid $103 for a 5-minute appointment on her blood test results. She said, I got back $46 on Medicare, but that's beside the point. Well, we all do agree with Alicia. So when is Alicia's out-of-pocket costs projected to come down?
Thank you, Senator O'Sullivan. Minister McAllister.
Well, I can inform the Senate that in South Australia, again, as in the other states that I have mentioned in my answers, the number of practices that intend to move from mixed billing to fully bulk billing has significantly increased. And so an additional 89 practices in South Australia have indicated that they will move to fully bulk billed practices. And what that means is for people attending those practices, their services that are bulk billed will be free.
Senator Shoebridge.
My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Defence. Minister, the Nightly reported yesterday that the Albanese government sent an email to defence companies telling them to stop directly exporting military goods to Israel. Why, over the past 2 years of genocide, after tens of thousands of deaths and the destruction of Gaza, why did it take the Albanese government 2 years to send this email?
Thank you, Senator Shoebridge. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. I think I would first say, as I have repeatedly said, Australia hasn't supplied weapons to Israel since the conflict began and for at least the past 5 years. In relation to any conditions, I believe that defence officials at the last estimates outlined the government's approach to defence exports at length, and I would refer the senator to that testimony, which he would be familiar with because I think he was present for that hearing.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Shoebridge, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Noting my question was about the email that has only recently been sent since estimates, will the government send a similar email to companies involved in the F-35 supply chain who are sending weapons parts to Israel from Australia? Or will the US stop Australia from adopting this as part of a genuinely independent foreign policy? Or is there a rule against asking this question?
Thank you, Senator Shoebridge. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. I think the Senator would know that nobody has told him there's a rule against him asking questions because he regularly asks them. In relation to the F-35, as the Defence Minister has said, we are one of 20 like-minded countries who operate the aircraft. We are a long-standing participant in the program, and the arrangements in relation to this program was gone through in detail on many occasions, both here but also in estimates.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Shoebridge, second supplementary.
Well, will your government now, will the Albanese Labor government continue to allow companies to wash their weapons and weapons parts from Australia through the US to Israel under AUKUS Pillar 2? Or do you accept that your government has a role under international law in monitoring the end user of weapons and weapons parts, even if they're being washed through the US as the middle person?
Thank you, Senator Shoebridge. Minister Wong.
Well, I don't accept the premise of the question, and I'd refer you to my previous answers and many statements we have made in support of international law.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Cadell.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister of the Environment and Water, Senator Watt. Senator, following a barrage of complaints from the public regarding the rollout of the Bureau of Meteorology website, including one from your colleague, Climate Change and Energy Minister Mr Bowen, where he said the Bureau clearly has work to do in that it has lost community confidence in the new website. Were you, your office or your department included in a pre-rollout of the $4 million website, and if so, when?
Thank you, Senator Cadell. Minister Watt.
Thanks, Senator Cadell, who I know you have a genuine interest in these matters. You will have seen that last week I made public comment on this matter, and I recognised the very large number of complaints that had been received about the changes the Bureau of Meteorology had made to their website. As a result of that, I had a meeting with the acting CEO of the BOM. I explained to him my view that clearly the new website did not meet users' expectations, and I asked him to consider urgent changes to the website. I'm pleased that they took that feedback on board and have begun making changes. I was not personally briefed or involved about the new website, certainly not verbally. I don't recall ever seeing a written brief about that as well. I'm not aware of my office having been involved. I'm not sure what my department's involvement was, but I'm happy to come back with any further information I may have, but I was not personally involved.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Cadell, first supplementary.
Similar to that, were you aware of any external contacts or any external testing from outside the Bureau of the website, including the department, anywhere before it went live in the Australian public?
Thank you, Senator Cadell. Minister Watt.
Well, I'm certainly aware that the BOM undertook testing of its website, new website, prior to it going live. They've put that on the public record themselves, that there was— I'm not the most technologically advanced person here, but I think what's known as a beta website, effectively a draft website enabling people to provide feedback on that. There's probably many people here who know these things better than me. So I am aware that the BOM did undertake that kind of testing, but beyond that I'm not aware of any other testing that occurred. If there's anything I can add to my answer, I will.
Senator Cadell, second supplementary.
You mentioned that you called the BOM in for answers about what had gone on and reviewing that policy. Why did it take a public outcry and the failures around the Brisbane storms before you did that?
Thank you, Senator Cadell. Minister Watt.
Well, the BOM itself has said that in the testing of its website that it undertook prior to it going live, that the feedback they had received had been extremely positive. Clearly, that was not the experience of Australians, including in south-east Queensland when some very severe storms came through. That feedback was heard loud and clear by the BOM, and it certainly was heard loud and clear by me. I'm pleased that, as I say, that they've made changes to that website and they intend to make more.
Thank you. Senator Barbara Pocock.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Housing. House prices across the country are out of control. Prices are rising at their fastest pace in more than 2 years. It's scary out there. National home values rose by 1% in single month of October and 6.1% over the year. More renters and first-home buyers are being pushed into housing stress and into overcrowded share houses and longer commutes. The government's own policies are turbocharging the housing crisis. Labor's failure to reform the $181 billion tax breaks going to wealthy property investors and your 5% deposit scheme are pitching first home buyers against a rising tide of speculative investors at auctions. First home buyers don't stand a chance. Minister, why are you choosing to back wealthy property investors and banks' profits over first home buyers?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister Ayres.
Thanks very much. Well, this government is backing Australians who don't have a home being able to buy a home with a 5% 5% first home buyers deposit, with a massive, unprecedented program of Commonwealth engagement in supporting the states and private sector to build homes. Now, this lot over here would have more credibility if they didn't want prices to go up and down all at the same time, and you lot would have more credibility if you weren't protesting every housing development that ever happens.
Senator Pocock, first supplementary.
Minister, we are facing a speculative housing price bubble that is accelerating at an alarming rate. The RBA's data show that investor borrowing is outpacing owner-occupier borrowing. It's worrying regulators. First-home buyers are being outbid at auctions by wealthy property investors. Minister, the obvious solution to this housing crisis is to wind back the enormous tax advantage for wealthy property investors. So why won't you?
Minister Ayres.
Because we're focused on supply, and we're focused on making sure that young people, who the Greens political party used to care about, have an opportunity to get a 5% housing deposit for their very first home.
Senator Pocock, second supplementary.
Minister, Labor's 5% deposit scheme is driving up house prices, especially for entry-level, lower and medium-priced houses. They are on steroids. They're going through the roof, making the dream of owning a home a fantasy for many. While the banks and wealthy property investors are cashing in, banks are on track to rake in more than $30 billion profits in this current financial year. Minister, can you see why so many Australians think Labor is failing us?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister Ayres.
Well, you know what young people tell me? What young people tell me is that the 5% deposit for first home buyers is the first time in decades that they have seen a chance for them and their families to buy a home. That's what they say. That's what happens in the real world. That's what happens for people in the housing market who want to get their foot on the ladder, that they are paying off their own mortgage, not somebody else's.
Senator Patterson. I beg your pardon, Senator Roberts. Sorry, Senator Patterson.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Senator Wong. Last week, Minister, the Prime Minister Albanese called Communist China a friend. A recent study shows that in every 12 days, China produces Australia's yearly carbon dioxide output. Each year, China increases its carbon dioxide output. China has 66 coal-fired power stations to every one of Australia's and is building more. Australians have been asked to sacrifice our living standards, power bills and manufacturing jobs on the altar of net zero. Minister, what have you threatened to levy on China if they don't do the same thing your government is asking Australians to do and stop using our coal? Or are the climate dictates turning your government into hypocrites on the world stage?
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator. Well, I would make a few points. The first point I'd make about our commitments to reduce emissions is that we are making commitments as a country because we recognise the economic imperative of transforming our economy in the context where so much of the global economy is doing the same thing. And I appreciate, Senator, you and I just simply will not agree on this because what we see is the imperative to transform our economy, to take advantage of the opportunity renewable energy brings. We see what is happening across the world, and we want to ensure that Australia has the opportunity to continue to be a prosperous and strong nation in that context. So we simply have a different view on why it is as a country we should not turn our back on climate change and we should not turn our back on renewable energy, and frankly we should not turn our back on facts. And the facts are that the world is moving. The facts are that coal-fired power is declining in this country. Was it 24 out of 28? 24 out of 28 announced they were closing under the coalition, coal-fired power stations. So, I mean, that gives us a very clear view about what the transition is.
Senator Roberts, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. If the Prime Minister's friends in Communist China can use Australia's coal and you won't tell them off, why can't Australia use our coal here? Are you too scared of Communist China to hold them accountable?
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Wong.
Well, Senator, 24 out of 28 coal-fired power stations announced they were closing within the decade at the time under the coalition. At that time, 8 had already closed, including Hazelwood, because they were too old and at the end of their end of life. The absence of a stable policy framework meant that investors voted with their feet, or in this case the money, and didn't invest.
Minister, please resume your seat. Senator Roberts.
Point of order, President. Relevance. We're talking about China, not the coalition.
Thank you, Senator Roberts. The minister is being relevant to your question.
Well, Senator, I'm making the point. That whatever you might think, and I disagree with a great deal of what you say, but whatever you might think about why you support coal, the market is not supporting coal. The market is not supporting coal. I mean,
order.
I'm sorry.
Well, point to the new
order. Minister Wong, did you wish to continue? No. Senator, order. Order. Come to order. Senator Roberts, second supplementary.
Thank you. Your friends in Communist China, Minister, began and resumed construction of 98 gigawatts of coal power last year alone. Many of these will use Australian coal. That's 1.5 times Australia's entire national electricity market capacity in 1 year. Why is your government destroying our cheap coal generation in our country to satisfy foreign dictates from the United Nations, World Economic Forum and Paris Agreement, while Communist China does the opposite? China, not Malcolm Roberts.
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Wong.
Well, Senator, again, I disagree with almost everything you just put to me in that question. What I would respond to specifically is the point about the why. You see, we're not doing this because other people are telling us to do this. We're doing this because we believe it is the right thing for the country. It's the right thing for future generations, but it's also the right thing for our economy. It's also the right thing for our economy. Amidst all of the interviews that were done recently by the Coalition in the last sort of 72 hours, Senator Bragg made a very important point when he was talking about net zero and the policy debate inside the Coalition. He said, what I am saying, the debate is over. What I'm saying is, in terms of the economic debate around the world, it's over. Capital markets have made their mind up. There is a wall of money going to renewable energy.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Patterson.
Thank you, President.
Sorry, Senator Patterson. We've moved on, Senator Whish-Wilson. Senator Patterson, please.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. Moments ago, the Reserve Bank confirmed their decision to keep the cash rate unchanged at 3.6%, meaning there will be no rate relief for Australian home owners. What does the government say to millions of Australians who continue to pay higher interest rates because of inflation, fuelled by this government's out-of-control spending, as Professor Richard Holden warned last week?
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. I mean, the decision was half an hour ago, President, and so it's good to see nimble opposition getting the question. Well, that's I disagree with the economist you cited, and I think I would say to households that inflation is much lower than what we inherited. Had a 6 in front of it and was rising. It's now half of that. I would say we've created 1.1 million jobs. We've got inflation down. We've got debt down. We've got real wages growing for the first time, which makes a difference, of course, to living standards, which Australians didn't receive when you were in government. Unemployment is low, and interest rates have been cut 3 times. But I certainly understand that.
Senator Hume. And Ruston.
Well, that's not the point I'm making, Senator Ruston. You can interject that, but that is not the point I'm making. I would also suggest that it might benefit those opposite to read the statement by the Monetary Policy Board of the Monetary Policy Decision, which has been released alongside that decision today. And I think in that statement, it goes to a number of different pressures, including uncertainty around international developments and that the bank is taking a cautious approach. That's my reading of their statement. We will continue to work to get inflation down. We'll make sure that we keep unemployment low, that the economy continues to grow and that we're seeing good growth across the private sector, having resumed its rightful place as a key driver of growth across the economy.
Senator Patterson, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. In the accompanying monetary policy statement, the RBA board noted, and I quote, "Underlying inflation is expected to be higher over the forecast period relative to the August statement. Year-end trimmed mean inflation is expected to be above the top of the 2 to 3% range until mid-2026, and headline inflation is forecast to rise to 3.7% year-ending 2026. Does the government admit that its record spending has put the Australian economy at risk of continued higher inflation and higher interest rates?"
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. No, the government doesn't accept that, and nor does the statement of the Monetary Policy Board say that. And I would say again that this is the opposition putting down a marker because they want to cut pensions, they want to cut energy bill relief, they want to cut cheaper childcare, they want to cut cheaper medicines, all the work we've done to repair aged care, to repair Medicare bulk billing. Well, that's what they call wasteful spending, President. That's what they are saying is wasteful spending. We think that supporting aged pensions and making sure energy bill relief is provided and other cost of living measures are funded properly has been an important part of supporting households when inflation has been higher than we would like.
Senator Patterson, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. The government has already achieved the trifecta of higher spending, higher inflation and higher unemployment, putting Australia at risk of stagflation if these trends continue. Should Australians now be worried, the government will soon be adding higher interest rates to this list of economic failures.
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Minister Gallagher.
The opposition have never not liked an approach to talk down our economy. At any opportunity they get, nothing gives them greater pleasure than to stand up and try to start a scare campaign. That's what they love. That's what they live for. When they're not killing themselves and running to give an interview up in the press gallery to do over the person that sits next to them in question time, when they're not doing that, they're starting a scare campaign. What I would say to Senator Patterson is inflation is down, debt is down, wages are growing, unemployment is low, and interest rates have been cut 3 times. There is more work to do, and this government is doing it.
Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. I ask that further questions be placed on notice.